Hey there guys, this is Richard, your host, with another marvelous video. The X-Men universe has mutants of all shapes, sizes, and abilities. While all of us are familiar with Charles Xavier's group of mutants, which traditionally includes Cyclops, Wolverine, Jean, and Storm, amongst others, there are also other groups. One of these is the New Mutants. The New Mutants are a team of mutant superheroes that frequently team up with the X-Men in American comic books published by Marvel Comics. Later stories have portrayed the individuals as adult superheroes or as instructors and guides to younger mutants, even though they were originally portrayed as the junior class of teenagers at the Xavier Institute. One of the New Mutants is Magik, otherwise known as Illyana Rasputin, a sorceress and part demon queen. She's an absolute badass and has even been featured in the 2020 film The New Mutants. Here is everything we know about her. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The backstory of this incredible mutant. In Siberia, close to Lake Baikal, on the Ust-Ordinsky collective farm of the Soviet Union, Illyana Nikolaevna Rasputina was born. Albeit the youngest of three mutant siblings, she was definitely not lacking in power. The X-Man Pyotr Rasputin, better known as Colossus, and the cosmonaut Mikhail Rasputin were Illyana's brothers. During the time Illyana was born, being a mutant alone didn't make you as unique as it formerly would have. The kind of mutant someone was determined by how unique they were. Their power level was also important, and this would demonstrate their potential or prowess as a mutant. Each of the Rasputin children possesses talents that would have a large-scale, even global impact. Their DNA ensured that whichever path they selected, their futures would see them all travel in quite different directions and have immense consequences. On the surface, it could appear that the fact that Illyana and her two elder brothers Mikhail and Pyotr all have incredibly potent mutant abilities and were born to the same family was a mere coincidence. Yet, not everything is as it seems. The family into which these three siblings were conceived had been altered to bring about these results. It was literally a lineage developed for power. All kids born within the Rasputin lineage would have these significant gifts. Not only Illyana, Mikhail, and Pyotr, each would possess the potential to use potent mutant abilities and share the same genetic makeup, bloodline, and heritage. This was definitely not a coincidence. All of this is the result of extensive manipulation by Nathaniel Essex, often known as Mr. Sinister, one of the world's best genetics experts. Growing up, she and her brothers were quite close. In fact, just before her brother was accepted into the X-Men by Professor X, she was saved by Pyotr as a youngster from a stray tractor. Unfortunately, her childhood was also not easy. To persuade the X-Men to save Arcade from Dr. Doom, Miss Locke grabbed Illyana along with several other close family members. Colossus permitted his sister to remain in the United States after they were rescued because he thought she would be safe and wouldn't be used as a tool by the government like their older brother Mikhail had been. She finally spoke English after being touched on the head by Professor Charles Xavier. Illyana was brought to Limbo at the age of 6 when Belasco, an ancient evil sorcerer, abducted her and the X-Men pursued him to rescue her. Illyana also came across the parallel X-Men during this time, who had been unable to track back to their own dimension. Belasco grabbed Illyana as she made an effort to escape to her home dimension. Unfortunately, Kitty Pryde held onto her arm until her grip slipped, allowing Belasco to abduct Illyana. To unlock her immense potential for power and give him control over her, he told her that he loved her and transformed a portion of her soul into a bloodstone. Illyana was frequently beaten while living with Belasco by his aide, Sim. The alternate versions of Aurora Monroe and Kitty Pryde, Storm, and Cat saved Illyana from the hellhole. Illyana then spent some time learning magic from Storm and fighting skills from Cat. To live, Illyana had to fight off demons and even some of the X-Men from that alternate universe, such as Nightcrawler. Illyana ended up joining Belasco's apprentice program after making several attempts to return to her world, all the while sneakily consulting Storm in her astral form for guidance. During this time, Belasco attempted to recreate the Elder Gods by using Illyana as a pawn. Illyana's own mutant teleportation disc abilities were revealed at this point. Illyana was compelled to sacrifice Cat in order to preserve Storm's life, who she then killed to prevent from being used as Belasco's sacrificial offering for the ritual to recreate the Elder Gods. Illyana then temporarily teleported back to her parents' farm after burying Storm, but her parents parents failed to recognize her. She went back to Limbo, where she utilized magic to make the Soul Sword appear using her own life force energy, and finally overpowered Belasco. The Soul Sword, which had a plain appearance when it was first made, gradually evolved when Illyana used it, growing more potent with each use. It was only after this that she's able to return to Earth. Interestingly enough, when she finally returned, only a few seconds had passed since Kitty had let go of Illyana's arm and Belasco had taken her. She had spent years in Limbo, while only a few seconds had passed on Earth. Thus, when she returned, she was the same age as Kitty, with both of them being 13 years old. The two grew close and even shared a room. This is when her training to become a new mutant started.
Let me show you mine.
Exploring her role in the movie The New Mutants. The 2020 superhero horror film titled The New Mutants is based on the same named Marvel Comics squad. The 13th and last overall X-Men movie before the entire franchise was transferred to Marvel, it's a standalone movie in the X-Men movie franchise. Anya Taylor-Joy plays Magik in the movie, which was directed by Joss Boone based on a screenplay he co-wrote with Nate Lee. A group of troubled teenage mutants confined in a covert facility battle to survive in the movie. The movie altered Illyana's origin story. As per the movie, Illyana was born in Russia's Siberia. She was unfortunately kidnapped and made into a sex slave when she was just a child. Illyana, in an effort to find relief from her misery, conjured up the fictitious realm of Limbo in her mind, where she used to transfer herself and her dragon toy Lockheed. Illyana acquired her soul sword in Limbo, where Lockheed transforms into an actual dragon. But after spending too much time in Limbo, that world became very real. Illyana killed the 18 men who abused her as a sex slave at a certain point in her life. She killed them one by one, with the aid of Lockheed and her sword. It should be obvious that such a depressing topic shouldn't be introduced so nonchalantly in an X-Men film. Furthermore, even while Illyana's horrific background with Belasco undoubtedly contained undertones of sexual assault and grooming, they were handled with such nuance and tact that they didn't seem gratuitous or out of place. The same cannot be said of the movie's interpretation of Magik's past. Anyway, she was then hospitalized at Millbury Hospital as a result of this act, where she met Roberto da Costa, Sam Guthrie, and Rain Sinclair, or other young mutants also being treated in the hospital post going through traumatic events. Roberto became a close friend to her at this time. Illyana and her pals welcomed Danny to Millbury Hospital and waited for her in the conference room. However, Illyana does not get on with Danny very well, and towards the beginning of the movie, she's quite insensitive, which is possibly the result of the writers trying to make the character edgier and loner-like. The movie follows Magik and the rest of the mutants as they live in the hospital and have to deal with the manifestation of Danny's powers. Illyana often becomes confrontational and is sent to isolation twice during the movie, showing that she's not very good at controlling her emotions or her powers. During the course of the movie's events, Danny's powers caused the smiling men that Illyana was deathly scared of to manifest. This led to an intense confrontation between Illyana and her traumatic past. She ran away from them during her first encounter with the nightmarish manifestations, and in the second encounter, she entered through a portal and killed all the smiling men, saving her friends. However, she would later realize that not only did she save her friends, but she also overcame her own fears. Having overcome her trauma, she then met up with her pals at Dr. Ray's office. They all agreed that they should find and kill Dr. Ray's to remove the force field that was put in place around the facility, preventing them from leaving. During this time, they also learned the true reason behind why all of the teams were being kept in the hospital. Reyes informed them that she intended to train them as killers for the Essex Corporation in the stretcher room after they had followed her trail there. A confrontation broke out, and Reyes encased Illyana and her companions in force fields before Illyana and her friends could act, and then she set out to kill Danny once and for all. But in an unconscious attempt to defend herself from Cecilia Reyes, Danny called upon the Demon Bear. Illyana then used her abilities to infiltrate Limbo and enlisted the help of a genuine Lockheed to fight the monster. However, she was unsuccessful, and in the end it was Danny herself who defeated her own creation. All the new mutants then packed up their bags and left the facility, heading toward whatever life had in store for them. Unfortunately, the New Mutants rendition of Magik left behind much of her charm. On the one hand, Anya Taylor-Joy is the ideal choice for the role of Illyana. She not only possesses the appropriate appearance, but also the versatility in portraying both the rough, rebellious exterior and the delicate, insecure inside of Magik. Taylor-Joy gives possibly the best performance in the film, doing her best with the stuff she's given. But in the movie script that she has to deal with, that same kind of commitment is not to be found. The interpretation offers the worst of both worlds, since it seems like the filmmakers were torn between keeping the fanciful aspects of Magik's past and dropping them in favor of a gritty perspective. Illyana is plagued by childhood childhood trauma, yet she doesn't feel guilty or doubt herself because of her link to Limbo as she does in the comics. Limbo is also still present in the movie, but its existence is entirely unnecessary. Despite Anna Taylor-Joy's best efforts, the film's subpar script completely discredits one of the finest X-Men characters ever created, Magik, despite her lively, nuanced portrayal in the original source. Let's hope that after the inevitable X-Men entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Illyana Rasputin will ultimately get a more faithful version. And hopefully, Taylor-Joy will get the much-needed second opportunity to bring Magik to life. Some of her memorable comic book story arcs. Life as part of the New Mutants. Illyana actually allowed herself to let loose a little bit when she joined the New Mutants. She quickly rose to the position of strength and respect on the team. They were aware of her mutant status, yet she continued to fiercely guard her magical side. The New Mutants would engage in many conflicts as a group. Despite their tremendous accomplishments, they also suffered a significant deal of loss. First, Magneto, the school's evil leader, took control after Professor. This adjustment did not sit well with Magik and the New Mutants. Later, Illyana ultimately showed her magical side to her comrades amidst the ups and downs of life. To her teammates' mixed reactions. As if it weren't enough, the Beyonder then killed every single New Mutant in the Secret Wars story arc. He created a scenario in which they never existed. Even though they finally came back to life, the trauma of their deaths and resurrections was too much for them to handle. Their collective mental health suffered greatly as a result of their ordeals. Magik and the New Mutants lacked all human emotion and were mere shells of who they once were. Magneto then chose to assign his students to Emma Frost, the White Queen of the Hellfire Club and head of the Hellions, once they got back to the Institute. Each of the New Mutants' already damaged psyches was to be repaired with the aid of Emma's powerful telepathic abilities. The New Mutants attended Emma Frost's school and joined her Hellions team while Emma Frost was in charge of them. She had intended to do this all along. To her amazement, however, Magik and the New Mutants would instantly return to the Xavier Institute after they had recovered from their injuries. Half mutant, half demon. In one particularly interesting story arc, the New Mutants were stranded when something went awry during one of their routine journeys through Limbo. Illyana's body began to be overtaken by her evil and demonic side. The demons there desired that she assumes full control of Limbo. The demon Nastir used her attempt to flee to activate a huge teleportation disk between Earth and Limbo, which sparked the conquest of Earth by demons from Limbo. Magik succeeded in vanquishing the formidable demon Sim. After the battle, the New Mutants looked through Magik's armor remnants and discovered Illyana, who was 7 years old, within. She still had the Bloodstone amulet, though. In order to ensure that Illyana had the skills necessary to take down a potent psychic being that presented a threat to Russia, the Russian authorities took the 7-year-old Illyana home and brought her back to Russia, where she lived with her parents until they were assassinated. Illyana then went back to the X-Mansion. Illyana, on the other hand, shortly thereafter contracted the Legacy virus, a fatal and incurable sickness that only afflicted mutants. She battled the infection for a few weeks before succumbing to it and passing away in the X-Mansion. Everyone mourned her death, but notably her brother and close friend, Kitty Pryde. She was laid to rest in the Xavier Institute. Later, her ghost paid Wolverine and her brother Piotr a visit. Illyana returns. The Scarlet Witch recreated the world as we know it during the House of M tale by changing it into the way she desired it to be. Illyana was thus resurrected, and she enrolled at S.H.I.E.L.D. with many of the new X-Men. She was assigned to the Hellions training team and given instructions during their final assignment to transport a group of mutant humans to a secure location. She teleported just as the House of M came to an end and returned to its original state, and chaos had taken control. It all went back to a time when Illyana wasn't still alive. No one could recall ever having met Magik because no one could recall the House of M. Later, the evil Belasco arrived at the school in search of Magik. After sensing her presence at the House of M, he used his supernatural abilities to capture the majority of the children there. Though none of them could recall ever meeting her, he could smell Magik on them. The evidence started to mount that Magik was still alive. An incarnation of Illyana in her dark child self was encountered by a group of kids who were on the run in Limbo. She admitted that Belasco had simply reproduced her in terms of physique and intellect. Her soul sword, which held her soul, had been destroyed. She planned to extract Pixie's pure soul to forge a new soul sword and create 5 new powerful bloodstones. However, only one bloodstone was produced as a result of the procedure's partial failure. Instead of a soul sword, Pixie was left with a soul dagger. After that, Illyana showed Pixie a teleportation spell, which helped the pupils get to Belasco's castle and engage him in combat. Pixie stabbed Belasco in the fight that followed with the dagger, enabling Illyana to use the Bloodstone's power to possibly killed Belasco. After taking down Belasco, she reclaimed her position as ruler of Limbo. Despite a heartfelt reconciliation with her brother Piotr, she walled off Limbo and exiled the X-Men because she was unwilling to stop until she had reclaimed her soul and was whole once more. Illyana desired to reclaim her soul. She attempted to restore her soul by connecting with those she had once loved, like Kitty and Piotr, and teleported to the Xavier Institute only to discover that it had been destroyed and left in ruins as a result of the Messiah Complex events. In a fit of rage, she decided that she would seek revenge on those who had mistreated her by targeting them and exacting a heavy price on their souls, rather than seeking redemption through love. Infernus story arc. Illyana's quest to reclaim her soul and eventually reunite with the X-Men is called the Infernus story arc. Illyana is shown at the start of the narrative looking for the Beatrice amulet in Limbo. She sends swarms of Limbo demons to scour the world after becoming enraged that she can't seem to find it. In the meanwhile, Pixie loses control and stabs Nightcrawler whilst X-Men are back in their danger room. Illyana's soul sword emerges from his body cavity when she stabs him with a soul dagger and subsequently removes the weapon from his body cavity. It turns out that the soul dagger and the soul sword have been sealed inside Nightcrawler by his girlfriend Amanda Sefton for safekeeping, and they didn't harm him. Illyana senses her soul sword emerge while in Limbo and immediately teleports to the danger room to recover what is rightfully hers. Everyone's astonished to see Illyana back because most people thought she'd passed away. Illyana demands they give back her sword, assuring them that they won't suffer any harm if they only give it to her. When the X-Men refuse, Illyana kills them one by one. Rockslide comes first, then Mercury, then Beast. Then Pixie appears and challenges Illyana to a duel, which she loses. Illyana then takes her soul sword back and transforms, becoming more human, but lacking something. So she flees back to Limbo, only to discover Witchfire, Belasco's daughter, is waiting there and seeks to kill her. The X-Men pursue her in Limbo and run into demons, but Pixie senses her spirit and travels to the palace. The mutants pursue her, but are defeated by Witchfire, who's holding Illyana in chains and beginning to steal more of Pixie's soul. Illyana is stabbed by Nightcrawler while he draws the soul sword. Pixie is the one person who can save them all, he tells her over the phone. She liberates Illyana, and the two of them expel Witchfire together. But she also takes Illyana's and Pixie's soul, which causes the young X-Men to flee. In the end, Illyana returns everyone to the danger room, where she makes the decision to remain with them. Coming back once again, Illyana reappears in the new X-Men San Francisco residence after a second lengthy hiatus, worn out and hurt. She asks fellow New Mutants Cannonball, Sunspot, and Magma to assist her in locating Danny and Shan. She warns them that the two will die shortly if the help is not provided right away. She travels to Colorado, and when she gets there, she breaks off from Amara to look for a missing young girl because she, too, was abducted when she was younger. Illyana and Amara believe they've located Shan being held captive after following her to a specific home. When they open the tiny jail, however, they see a smiling Legion waiting inside. When Sam and Bobby, who had discovered Shan's body in a different location, are contacted, they learn that Shan is within Legion's mind with a kindly young girl personality and is being pursued by the more aggressive personas in David Haller's mindscape. The vicious ego emerges when Shan and the younger girl are in danger. Danny has also become one of Legion's planned targets because she was one of the entities that previously attempted to repair David Haller's psyche. Sam and Bobby discover Danny confined in a local jail and on the verge of a Legion attack. They fight against Legion, and Magik also shows up to save the day. Illyana then teleports to Shan's body and touches it, starting a mental transfer from her into Legion's, determined to halt the danger and save Shan. Illyana finds herself in the mind psyche and instantly threatens them with violence if they don't release Shan to her right away, proving she means business. Illyana appears with her soul sword when she's accused of bluffing and quickly cleaves and decapitates 3 of Legion's identities, disregarding Sam's request that she not damage any of Legion's personalities. Illyana is led to the location where they're imprisoning Shan and the young girl. After a 4th persona's unsuccessful attempt to stop her is accepted by the other personas. David Haller's fundamental personality is also set free by Illyana, as she sets both of them free. David helps Illyana realize that the Moira doll is the foundation for Legion's body's conscious control. Danny and the others are saved when Illyana removes the doll from the surviving hostile egos. Her character had the biggest change during Brian Michael Bendis' 2013 Uncanny X-Men run, when she transitioned from New Mutant to X-Man. She now had a visually stunning goth look and a more jovial disposition after becoming Cyclops' type of apprentice. The old and contemporary depictions of Magik most recently came together in Vita Ayala's Labors of Magik plotline, as she eventually overcame her trauma. She can be flirty, sardonic, and playful at times, while she can be vengeful, wary, and tough as nails at other times. She is also hopeful, kind, and sympathetic. It's hardly surprising that the Magik from the comics had grown to be such a huge fan favorite, because she's one of the most complex and interesting X-Men of all time.
In limbo.
How powerful is Magik, aka Illyana Rasputin? Illyana possesses two highly unique abilities: Magik that she developed when she was in limbo, and her mutant ability to create spatial and temporal warps in the shape of stepping discs. As a greater portion of her soul was taken away, it was gradually replaced with black Magik, which gave her a wide range of supernatural skills. Illyana Rasputin possesses the mutant capacity to produce and exert control over stepping discs, which are teleportation energies. Once constructed, these blazing yellow circles of light offer teleportation. She can transport not just herself, but a group of others to a wide range of locations, encompassing both temporal and spatial locations. She may teleport anywhere, but the one restriction is that she has to stop at limbo first, regardless of where her eventual destination may be. Magik has the ability to teleport both inside and outside of her realm, the limbo or hell reality. Illyana can identify anybody she wants to transport to Earth from limbo by mentally scanning limbo while she's on Earth, because limbo is her realm. On a few occasions, Magik has been able to travel across time and transport herself, as well as another person across a continent. Magik has yet to perfect her teleportation skills, though. The potential margin of error in her ability to teleport over a certain distance and arrive at the desired location in time increases with distance. As a result, when she and a companion once attempted to teleport from New York to California, Magik and her buddy instead arrived 1 week after they'd originally planned, having unintentionally journeyed into the future. Magik is constantly honing her teleportation technique to perfect it. Even while she's already fairly skilled in using her mutant abilities, she still has a lot to learn, especially given how unfamiliar she is with them. Illyana's potential is essentially infinite. Dr. Strange once informed her that she was capable of amazing acts of time manipulation on a huge scale. Illyana practices using her mutant talents on a daily basis in order to master them and make them stronger. Magik has seen an improvement since the Phoenix Force changed her abilities. She's demonstrated the ability to summon and unleash potent energy blasts from her limbo dimension, which is an extension of her abilities rather than her magic. She has repeatedly demonstrated her skill in teleporting individuals away before witnesses can react. Illyana has also taken over control of the entirety of limbo after Dormammu tried to seize control of it. As far as her magical powers go, Illyana was physically and emotionally altered as a result of the time she was made to spend in limbo. She spent an overall of 6 years in limbo, growing in knowledge and talent under the guidance of many professors as she prepared to become the Sorceress Supreme and ruler of limbo she was meant to be. Illyana served as an apprentice to a storm in the parallel universe during her first year in limbo. She learned about the applications and procedures of white magic when she was staying with Aurora. In contrast to black magic, when employed, white magic often benefits rather than harms. She was also instructed about astral travel and the origins of existence. Illyana learned how to use magic to cure herself while spending time with the old Aurora, a skill she would eventually perfect. Illyana also trained with Cat, Kitty Pryde's alter ego, after spending her first year with Aurora. Cat hated magic and wanted Illyana to stay away from it as a result of the magical metamorphosis that was imposed upon Cat. Illyana would go on to train with Cat for 2 years, learning how to fight, especially in unarmed combat, and how to utilize bladed weapons properly. Illyana was first shown how to use a dagger by Cat before moving on to swords. Illyana would become accustomed to using both weapons in a very comfortable and efficient way. She learned useful survival techniques from Cat while they were together, which helped her succeed even in the most improbable circumstances. Illyana would eventually become Cat's closest friend, treating her like family and being ready to go to any lengths to defend her. Illyana changed and learned the most while she was living with Belasco, the king of Limbo at the time. Belasco wanted to turn the 5 components of Illyana's soul into bloodstones. There were 2 very distinct causes for this. First off, Belasco could complete the Beatrice Medallion's magical requirements with the help of the 5 bloodstones, giving him the power to travel to and from Limbo. Second, she would become a tool of both him and of the wicked lords, the Elder Gods. As a result of having her soul taken, it would be filled entirely with dark magic. She would thereafter become an entirely malevolent creature, aiding the Elder Gods in their attempt to rule the Earth plane. Belasco's plan to take away Illyana's 5 soul facets would go on to fall short. He would only be able to extract 3 out of the 5 of her soul in the 3 years she would study under his instruction. She would still have a portion of her demonic soul as a result of this, which would permanently taint her soul. The deepest of the dark arts and the blackest of black magic would be taught to her by Belasco while she was a student of his. She had complete access to Belasco's collection of magic books while she was in his palace, which he had amassed over the course of his lengthy, unnatural existence. Ileana was taught everything she knew by Belasco. Because of this, Ileana was able to create almost any spell that Belasco had and would be able to use magic to accomplish a range of goals. Astral projection, the creation of magical force fields, the generation and release of concussive bolts of pure magic energy, the ability to generate and manipulate fire, interdimensional travel, dark force manipulation, mental possession, and the creation of constructs purely of magical energies were among her skills. She could also control the minds of both humans and animals. Ileana had had an expansive education and spent many years studying while she was in Limbo, which gave her a sorcery skill and mastery of magic that was unmatched by anybody else. She would use a special brew of both white and dark magic that she had developed. Ileana had also developed a powerful psionic barrier that gave her immunity to mental probing as a result of her now half-demonic soul. This barrier was strong enough to prevent Professor X and Marvel Girl, 2 of the most potent mutant minds the world has ever known, from using their renowned telepathic powers. Ileana decided to exile Belasco from Limbo after defeating him in combat rather than murdering him, preserving his life. Ileana received the title of Sorceress Supreme of Limbo as the winner. Her ability's full potential has not yet been established. Ileana is said to have unrivaled authority in Limbo, and her word is the law. She has the power to entirely change Limbo's outward appearance with only one thought. She could be able to use all the spells that Belasco could, as was previously reported. She has unrestricted access to Belasco's sorceress knowledge, which makes this especially true. Ileana is most effective while she is in Limbo. This is unmistakably a result of her connection to the dimension, which allowed the two to become entangled by the same essences from which they were born. On the other hand, Ileana's magical strength and skills are significantly diminished while she's in the Earth plane, shut off from Limbo. Ileana has used a few magical abilities here on Earth, but nothing close to what she's capable of in Limbo. Ileana has successfully performed astral projection, the capacity to detect magical presences, and the ability to magically scan her Limbo realm while she's on Earth, enabling her to monitor or see what happens in Limbo while she's gone. Ileana's most famous abilities while on Earth are primarily restricted to her magical soul sword, which she created herself. Recently, Ileana has been utilizing her propensity to time travel to see Doctor Strange before he joined the Avengers to get magical training from him. The soul sword, which Ileana fashioned in a time of extreme need and sorrow, is the pinnacle of her magical might. Ileana was scrambling to discover a means of getting away from Limbo and Belasco. She made a valiant effort to build something that would aid her in her self-liberation using the white magics that her last instructor, the aged Aurora, had taught her, only to discover that she would fall short every time since she was unable to cast the same spells as the seasoned Aurora. She discovered that it was because they each employed magic for different purposes. Reconfiguring the spells using a chunk of her still pure soul and her motivation, which she discovered to be retaliation, a dazzling light suddenly appeared in front of her. She reached inside and pulled out what looked to be a pretty basic silver sword. It was entirely engulfed in light as she firmly gripped it and pushed it away from the light, and Ileana felt an intense burst of energy. The soul sword, as she called it, helped Ileana vanquish Belasco, rule Limbo, manage her demons there when she was away, and fight while she was in the Earth world. The blade's skills and strength expanded enormously with each and every usage. The blade was only the beginning of her magical prowess. Over time, the owner of the blade would acquire a set of armor with the same magical abilities as the sword. Dr. Doom explained that the soul sword had provided Limbo's rulership, and the armor had been the power of the sword's protection by right. Ileana's soul sword's capabilities and range were never completely disclosed. However, her soul sword had a variety of highly special magical traits and skills. It grants rulership of Limbo, which means that the owner or wielder of the soul sword is given rulership or dominion over Limbo, as well as the disruption of magic and breaking of spells, which include its extremely lethal nature to magical beings, and soul absorption, which allows the wielder to permanently or temporarily store and transfer other people's souls, are some of the powers and abilities of her sword. Ileana was the only one who could access the full power of the sword. Sword summoning, or the capacity to deposit and store anything in complete nothingness and easily return it from where it came from, gives the owner of the sword the ability to do just that. If retained in the blade, it would boost the sword's strength. The Soul Sword's capacity to make teleportation stepping discs comes from the fact that it was fashioned from fragments of Ileana's soul. Dimensional manipulation allows the ruler of Limbo to mentally alter the physical characteristics of Limbo, so that it appears however they want it to. It also possesses augment magical powers, which grant greater magical power to whoever wields or controls the blade. The sword is also capable of casting spells. Even if the holder lacks the capacity to cast or create magic, having the Soul Sword gives them the power to do so. The mystical Eldritch armor can also be summoned. Dr. Doom stated that the supernatural armor that appears on the Soul Sword wielder is actually a magical armor given to anybody who rules Limbo. Super strength is last but not least. Ileana demonstrated an improvement in her own power while donning the supernatural armor, shown when she engaged in combat with her former servant Sim. When the two engaged in combat during the Inferno invasion, Ileana was able to effortlessly catch Sim and fling him yards away from her, using just one arm. It's unknown why the Soul Sword can physically hurt Kitty Pryde, aka Shadowcat, even while she's utilizing her phasing abilities to turn invisible. The Soul Sword is unable to damage creatures that are not of magical origin. In addition, Pryde is the only individual except for Magik who has been observed to effectively use the Soul Sword. Upon doing so, Pryde's body starts to take on the appearance of Magik's armor. Furthermore, Pryde was given the capacity to create and use the Soul Sword when the Beyonder once released Ileana from the control of her dark spirit. To use the Soul Sword once more to defend Pryde from a demon, Ileana later reclaimed the evil soul influence. Ileana Rasputin and Kitty Pryde, who are each other's best friends, have a mysterious link that is unknown. More recently, Amanda Sefton entrusted Nightcrawler with the care and custody of a Soul Sword, most likely Magik's. When faced with supernatural danger, Kurt has been able to draw the sword from his chest and use it. Of course, a remarkable individual like Magik also possesses certain unique skills, like being bilingual. She speaks English and Russian with ease. She is a master of both swordplay and the magical arts. Ileana said that she has the ability to reverse everything Pixie's soul dagger causes, allowing her to treat empath's blindness. Every person, nevertheless, also has some restrictions. Ileana has mutant teleportation powers that, with one exception, may be unrestricted. Before arriving at her final destination, she must use Limbo as a transition place. No matter what, Limbo must always be her midpoint. Ileana's power was originally severely constrained on the Earth realm, but it's now almost infinite when she's in Limbo. She's been collaborating with Stephen Strange, and is now capable of casting potent spells by channeling the energies of Limbo. Ileana's Soul Sword can only be used in extremely precise circumstances since, despite its great strength, it cannot hurt anybody who's not magical. Is she stronger than the Scarlet Witch? Ileana is known by many names. Among them are the Phoenix, the Dark Child of Limbo, and the younger sister of Colossus. This new mutant has battled for good, evil, and herself over the years. Ileana has frequently displayed supernatural prowess that justifies calling her Magik. Many believe that Magik is a considerably nastier threat than Scarlet Witch because of her mastery of magic. One example of her legendary magical prowess was when she faced off against the ruler of the Dark Dimension, Dormammu. The Chaos Lord Dormammu once attempted to subdue and liberate the dimension of Limbo. To save his own Dark Dimension, he intended to enter Limbo and take advantage of its resources. Dormammu's power originally forced Ileana into a corner. Magik couldn't cope with the Dark Lord's magic. And just then, Magik released her Dark Child powers, saving her from losing her kingdom. Ileana is virtually unstoppable in this state. Dormammu and his army of the Mindless Ones are immediately defeated and are scattered in 4 directions. Even a Time Stone was not necessary for Magik. Dormammu was beaten by her on her own, showing just how powerful she was. As we already know, Magik was sent to Limbo because the Elder Gods of the dimension required her soul to be freed. Magik has long been angry at the Elder Gods for severing her soul from her body. She then started a really evil scheme of retaliation which held testament to the sheer amount of power she wielded. The Elder Gods were first freed from their prison by Magik. She then utilized Magik to fully unleash Legion's potential. Ileana then released him, along with the Elder Gods, and simply stood by while David Haller dismembered the Elder Gods. Further, Ileana Rasputin is constantly engaged in conflict with herself. Her mind is split into 2 parts that are fighting for dominance. One is her mutant alter ego, who prefers that Magik continue to be mostly kind. The other half, which is demonic, never succeeds in taking control. That's until a bad guy by the name of Callahan managed to obliterate Magik's mutant half, allowing her demonic alter ego to take control. Magik tore through numerous powerhouses as a fully fledged demon. Even the supposedly unbeatable Juggernaut was unable to stop her as Magik tore through his chest and tore out the crimson gem of Cyttorak that was fueling him. She is truly deadly. Illyana is undoubtedly one of the most powerful mutants in the X-Men universe. It's a shame that the 2020 New Mutants movie didn't do her justice. Illyana, or Magik, is an extremely complex character and must be dealt with more care. However, because of her powers, she can definitely be better used in upcoming X-Men movies. Do you think Illyana Rasputin is more powerful than the Scarlet Witch? Let us know in the comments section below. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.